Hey there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today I have card number 11 for the encouraging card series that I've been doing over the past 11 weeks. So let's go ahead and get started with this card. I am going to be using an array of products, but to start off we're going to take a piece of Nina 80-pound cardstock, which I probably should have used something a little bit stronger, but I am scoring that at 5.5 inches using my Score Buddy, which will make it a top folding A2 size card. And I am going to do a little bit of stenciling over the top. I want this to be mostly white, but I decided I wanted to use some distress inks. And then I am going to do some sponging. So I'm going to tape down my cardstock, and then I'm also going to go ahead and tape down my stencil. And that stencil is the Tim Holtz Stars stencil. I think that one's been out for a long time. As you can tell, mine is very well loved and used, but don't worry, that's acrylic paint, so it shouldn't have any effect on my stenciling. So I am starting off with some distress ink in Spiced Marmalade, and I'm very lightly sponging that on using a mini ink distress tool. And then I'm going to move on to some Fired Brick, and I'm going to go very lightly with that too. I started out light because I wanted it to kind of blend out, and I used my I used a little bit darker or more pressure in the middle so that I could get a darker image in the middle. And then I finally moved on to my bundled sage at the very bottom. And I don't care that going over the top of that red a little bit will give me a brown. I'm kind of going for fall colors here. I'm feeling it, even though the weather doesn't feel any bit like fall out there. So I'll just keep sponging back and forth until I have the coverage that I want. And then when I'm done, I will pull that all off. Now I got some bundled sage on the side, so I'm using my Mono Sand eraser to just kind of scrape that off. And now I'm taking some cardstock. That's just from my stash. It's a cream and more of a dark orange, like a burnt orange, and I am running that through my Xyron sticker maker. That thing is awesome. And I'm going to be using the Simon Says Stamp Picture Book Fox. So I want to run him, I want to use that sticker maker to get my fox's pieces all covered with sticker back, and except for the nose. So I'm cutting out a little bit of black from my from my stash as well. And then I'm going to get those pieces ready to go to run through my Sizzix Sidekick. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I use this thing like crazy. So I'll run the burnt orange through. And then when I'm done with that, I will run that cream through and save all those pieces on the side. And then I'm just going to run his little face through with the black, just to get the nose. I have other plans for his eyes. If you've seen the picture, you know what I'm talking about. So I'll just take a scrap piece of paper. This is like some printer paper. And I am going to just lightly draw the outline of the fox. And then I'm going to cut inside the line of that, because if you've seen anybody put these picture book characters together, they typically have a backing on them. It just makes it a little easier. So then I can assemble those pieces very, very easily over the top. And I didn't get this down very well, so I ended up having to pick it up and put it back on. And yes, I am crafting in my Turby Twist once again. That seems to be the theme for me. I get a shower after working out, and then I go craft. Yeah, sorry about that being in the way too much. This is where I realized that the bottom portion didn't get put on very, very well. So thankfully I didn't push it down too hard. And with those Xyron sticker makers, until you really adhere it, you do have a little bit of leeway. You can pick it up without tearing it. It's not until you really push down that those pieces aren't going anywhere. And so then once I have that in place, I'm going to take his little nose. And I didn't put any sticker back on that, so I'm going to actually use some craft tacky glue, some Simon Says Stamp craft tacky glue, and I'm just going to put a little dollop where his nose goes. And then I'll use my crystal katana to pick up his nose. So it has a waxy finish there on the end, and it picks up his nose and it puts it in place. And I probably could have cut out some for his ears, but I decided to use just a pink Prismacolor pencil to color in his ears. And that worked out just fine. So I'll set him off to the side, and now I want to make a frame. And that cardstock that I have there is some basil polka dot cardstock. I have no idea. I think I got it actually at Joann's, to be honest with you, but I may have gotten it at Michael's, so I'm not 100% sure. And I'm just going to tack down. I'm using my favorite things, In and Out stitched rectangle stacks. I'm using 2 of them because I want a frame. And that middle I ran that through my Big Shot off screen, and I'm going to take that middle portion and I'm just going to save that for another card down the road. And then I'm going to use my frame for my card today. For my sentiments, I'm using some black cardstock, and surprise, surprise, I'm going to stamp on that with Versamark ink, which is the clear sticky ink. And after I've run my embossing buddy over that, which basically is just to get the static so that the powder doesn't stick to where you don't want it, then I'm going to cover that with some Simon Says Stamp Ultrafine Detail White Embossing Powder. And then I'm going to use the other sentiment and do the exact same thing. Then I will make sure that my heat gun is good and hot before I bring it to my piece, and then I'm going to melt that embossing powder, and voila. And once that's kind of dried and cooled down, I will use my Fiskars cutter because it has the wire there, which is a good wire guide, and I'm going to trim down my sentiments. I like that Fiskars wire cutter for that. And now I'll just kind of assemble the card how I think it should go. And I'm at this point I'm thinking I wanted like fishtail banner, so I'm going to trim those down where you just kind of cut in the center and then let that flag banner meet in the center. And it looked okay to start. I thought that was okay, but then for the other sentiment I decided I wanted that cut differently. So I trimmed those down at an angle, both going the same direction. And when I put that up there, it was just too much. So I ended up just doing the same thing, except going the other angle when I trimmed these down. So as you can see, they're like parallelograms. And to adhere my frame, I am just putting some foam tape on the back of that. I'll make sure that's as level as I can get it before I adhere it. And then I'll do the same thing with the fox. I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of him, and then I will pop him up. And then I'm going to put a little bit of foam tape on the back where that touches in between the frame for both of those sentiments. And I will adhere those down using that foam as well. And for the seriously, it ended up being just a little easier to take a chunk and just put it down in the center. And that way I could adhere the sentiment to it. And I didn't completely put it down, which was good because I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it was centered enough. So I was able to pick it up and re-put it down. And there I've decided I want googly eyes on my fox. Just something about a little googly eyes on there. Seriously, your awesomeness is boundless. I have no idea who I'm going to give this card to yet, but I'm telling you, I had a fun time making it. I will probably make more like it. And so for a bit of embellishment, I have grabbed some Nouveau Crystal Drops in bottle green, which that's what I'm starting with because that matched fairly well with the colors that I chose in the Distress inks. And then here's where you're going to see it's a good idea to use scratch paper first. It blew up on the side. So in order to get that off of there, I'm actually going to use an X-Acto knife and kind of just scrape it off as best I can. And then I will grab, finally, grab a piece of scratch paper, and that way you can get the air bubbles out of your crystal drops before you just go ahead and take that chance, or you could ruin your project. So once I got the air bubbles out, I try and cover up that piece as much as possible, and then I just put a few little drops in various sizes all over. And then and that color was the autumn red, and then I will do some auburn pearl for my orange. And then I will tap those down to try and flatten them a little bit, because by tapping them down on something, you can make them look a little bit more like enamel dots. And once I'm done tapping them down, that's going to finish off this card. So if you liked it, I would appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, guys, I really do appreciate you guys stopping by and taking the time to watch the videos. Bye!